And there's so many kids in the inner city, you know, in my neighborhood, Lyell Avenue, Conkey Avenue, Harris Street, Clifford Avenue. I just drive through there and I'm like, sometimes I drive through there and don't even realize why I'm doing it, because I go home and I'm depressed. You're looking at these kids and you're like, damn, they ain't got a chance in France. They don't have a shot in the world. And some people will comment and say, and I've seen these comments where they're like, everyone makes their own decisions. Well, when you're a little kid and your mother's on welfare and she's selling the food stamps and she's getting high, this is the only decision you got. This is all you know. Like now I live a wonderful life. I go to Aruba twice a year. I know about, you know, what it is to go on. I didn't know any of that stuff. I was making money selling drugs. Didn't know nothing about real life. Real life to me was, I'm going to have a nice car and put, you know, nice stereo system in there, and I'm going to buy whatever clothes I want. And I'm going to go to the club with my boys every Friday night. That's not life. That's a lie. Now I know what it's like to make money, save money, and, you know, do good things with my life.
Now, obviously, it's a whole different podcast to talk about what's broken in the system. What would you say, and probably impossible to whittle it down to just one thing, but what's the most broken part of the prison system that you experienced?
The most broken part? So I'm going to answer this in two different ways, right? Number one, the number one problem with all these problems is their character education. There's no character education, right? And as far as prison goes, there's a cultural problem where the police that work in there, the cops, the COs, correctional officers, whatever you want to call them, deputies, there's this sentiment that, hey, you're a piece of shit, you're the lowest of the low, and I'm going to treat you like shit. And there is no incentive to do right to get out of prison. You get 40 years in federal prison, you do 36 years with good time. What incentive is there? How do you fix it? You put cameras on these people. I mean, you've seen what's going on in New York State Department of Corrections. I mean, they killed a couple people, but, you know, beating people to a pulp in New York State prison has been going on for years. It's just now coming to light because of social media and people are, you know, fed up. I'm not hug a thug and all that stuff either. I've been to prison. I just think that there has to be rules followed on both ends, right? But if you gave people an incentive, you know, and I'm going to give you this example, which I've given other times. You know, one of the most dangerous prisons in the country at the time I went to prison was USP Big Sandy. So let's say they give you a 40-year sentence and they say, hey, look, you can earn your way out of prison. We're going to get you some character education. We're going to get you a trade. You know, it might take about 8 years for us to get you right. And the first thing we're going to do is teach you how to wake up in the morning, make your bed, comb your hair, pull your pants up, teach you how to go get a job. You know, but this is going to be a program. Get you a college degree, get you an associate's degree. I got a college degree in prison. I paid for it myself. But train these people and let them earn their way out. But if you don't really want to get out of prison, you got a 20-year sentence, you got a 40-year sentence, we got a place for you. We're going to put you in Big Sandy. You can go over there and be an animal. You want to stab people? Okay, do what you want to do. Here it is. But you're not going to be able to earn your way out of prison. But if you want to get out of prison, then this is what we got for you. We got this program. First 2 years, character education. Next 2 years, college degree. Next 2 years, teach you a trade. Earn your way out. And I think society would benefit, and I think that, you know, I just think everyone would benefit. You, the prisoner, the person who committed a crime, as well as society. There's a lot of people in prison that don't need 20 years in prison to change their lives, to change their criminal thinking, to change the way that they go about things. You don't need 20 years. You probably need something, and it probably isn't 1 year like you see in the county jail that these guys go do a year, get out, you're back stealing shit out of Home Depot. You probably need a significant sentence, but who determines what significant is? I think 8 years is significant for anybody. 10 years is it's probably a little extreme. And people are like, oh, he's a bleeding heart liberal. I'm not at all. I mean, if you take someone's life, then yeah, there's different consequences. If you're a nonviolent drug offender like I was and get sentenced to 40 years, I think it's ridiculous. One of my closest friends in prison was sentenced to life in prison for marijuana, nonviolent marijuana offense. I was able to help get him out once I got out. He ended up getting clemency. But guys like that, did he deserve a life sentence for a nonviolent marijuana offense?
Hell no.
Of course not.
Hell no.
I was a crack dealer. I was a piece of shit. Did I deserve to go to prison for 40 years at the age of 24? Probably not.
Would you consider yourself a bad dude back then? Were you a bad guy? I mean, I know you did bad things, but were you a bad guy?
I think I did bad things. I think that I was a good person, maybe misdirected.
Yeah.
product of my environment, not an excuse, but definitely a product of what I seen in my neighborhood. And that's the stuff that you have to clean up. Yeah. So people don't become a product of their environment. People don't become, you know what, I ain't got nothing but this. All I can do is sell drugs. I think you were there for the interview with the kid the other day. Dion, the heavier set black kid. Were you there for that interview?
I don't know.
He talked about his mom, and yeah, you might not have been there, but he had talked about his mom and what it was like growing up and being poor with 4 or 5 siblings. A lot of times you don't have a shot. This is your neighborhood. You do become a product of your environment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and there's a lot of people who disagree with that, and I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't get it. And it's the same crowd that says, "Oh, you have choices. You can make choices." And sometimes you don't have a choice. They think, from the outside, they think, here I am, a privileged guy living in suburbia. I think, oh, he didn't have to go do that, but I'm not there. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Like I said, sometimes you make the only choice that you can make. You're 11 years old. Your mother's on welfare. She sells her food stamps. There's no food in the house. You go to Wegmans, and now you start to learn how to steal because your stomach's touching your back. So then it progresses from, I'm going to steal some food just because I'm hungry. So like, you know what? That wasn't so bad. Now I'm going to go to the mall and steal a shirt. Now I'm going to steal some pants. You know what? This ain't cutting it. This ain't enough. Now I'm going to start selling drugs because I can make $400 or $500 a week working for someone sitting in a crack house, not realizing you're taking a chance with your life at 14 years old, 15 years old. You're selling crack for someone for $500 a week. But to a kid that has nothing, $500 a week is a lot of money. But he couldn't even pay the rent at his house at 14 or 15 for his mother and his 4 siblings, but he was taking a chance, with his life.
Yeah.
And I used to ask people, because I used to teach leaders breed leaders. I used to teach a lot of programs in prison. So I would ask people in prison, what are you worth? And, some guys would be like, man, I'm worth $1 million. Man, I'm worth $10 million. And some of the answers you get, you'd be like, what? Because of the mind. In prison, a lot of people grow physically, but you don't grow mentally. So in prison, when people would tell me that, I'd say, well, I'm going to tell you what I was worth and what I'm worth today. Today, I'm priceless. But back then, when I was standing in front of the corner store with a gun in my waist and I was selling $10 bags of crack and I had $2,000 worth of crack on me, I was worth $2,000 because I was taking a chance of, losing my life for $2,000 for selling drugs. I was taking that chance.
Is there a big misconception that people get when you're talking about prison life? Like, what's the biggest one that people get wrong?
So the biggest misperception about prison is, when dudes come home from prison, right? Everyone thinks you're a tough guy because you were in prison. Or as soon as they hear you were in prison, they're like you said, hey, you kind of sounded like a standoffish, like you were straight business. And, a lot of people think that, you're just a hardened dude and you're violent and, you're the toughest dude in the yard and out here in the city. That's a misconception. Prison don't make you tough. Prison will put you through some things. You'll experience some things that other people don't experience, but that does a lot of other things that people don't realize. People don't realize that stuff used to hurt my feelings. To see people get killed, it hurt me. It hurt me mentally. It hurt me emotionally. Did you go through any kind of counseling and stuff after that? Have you ever done that? Actually, I did. I went through some counseling when I got out of prison because I actually needed it. You hear a lot of people say, when I got out, I kind of had a hard time, or I did have a hard time. I had a hard time in Walmart. I had a hard time crossing the street, cars, and I used to hear stories like that, but that would never happen to me. I'm normal, but it does affect you. But eventually, the violence that you see, sadly, you become calloused. It might hurt your feelings for a minute or two because I've seen a few people get murdered, man. So to see people killed, to see people brutally stabbed, or see people cut in the face with a razor blade, or stuff like that, you're like, you got PTSD. Yeah, a little bit. When I got out of prison, I slept with a knife. When I got that apartment, I had my own place out there in Spencerport. When my buddy helped me out, I would have all the lights on in the hallway. I would put my dresser in front of my bedroom door, and I lived in Spencerport in a townhouse. Yeah. I put the dresser in front of the door, and I slept with a knife. And then when I had to get up and use the bathroom at 2 a.m, I'm like, I'd have to move the dresser. You walk out, you walk out into the hallway, all the lights are on, bathroom lights on. You're like, it's embarrassing to even say, but yeah, I was freaked out a little bit.